Reality show revenge. I exposed my cheating wife on live TV and took down the entire show. I'm Marcus, 34 years old, an IT consultant by trade, and I've always considered myself a practical man. A man who trusts in systems, logic, and structure. My wife, Olivia, on the other hand, is a 31-year-old fashion blogger with a flair for spontaneity. I always found her unpredictability refreshing, a wild contrast to my structured life. She approached me one day with an idea I didn't see coming. "What if we signed up for this reality show?" she said, her eyes gleaming with excitement as she waved a glossy pamphlet in front of me. The show was called Lasting Love. The concept: couples would be locked away on a remote island for 6 months, with zero outside contact, to test the strength of their relationship. The promise of prize money was enough to make me consider it. $2 million for the last couple standing. I wasn't too keen, but Olivia was persuasive, and with her relentless energy, I gave in. After all, how hard could it be? We packed our lives into suitcases and soon found ourselves on a tropical island with 9 other couples. Cameras were everywhere, but after the first few days, you barely noticed them. There was no internet, no phones, and no distract-irons. Just us and each other. At first, it felt like a vacation, long walks on the beach, tropical drinks, and plenty of time together. Olivia seemed to be loving it, and for a moment, so was I. Then, things started to get strange. It was subtle at first. Olivia grew distant. She began spending more time with one of the other contestants, a 28-year-old personal trainer named Kyle. Tall, muscular, and annoyingly charismatic, Kyle was everything I wasn't. I brushed it off. Of course, people were going to socialize. But one evening, while Olivia and Kyle were talking by the bonfire, I noticed a look between them. A look that stirred an unsettling feeling deep in my gut. About a month into the show, I started to notice more. Their late-night chats by the ocean, the way her laughter would echo through the air when they were together. It felt too close, too personal. I was no longer just suspicious, I was paranoid. But I had no proof. That all changed on day 72. I woke up early that morning, the sun barely breaking over the horizon. Olivia wasn't beside me in bed. Figuring she went for one of her morning walks, I shrugged it off. But as I ventured out into the compound, something caught my eye near the production crew's tent. 2 shadows moved behind the tent, huddled close. I crept closer and heard whispers. Then, Olivia's voice. I froze. "Just keep it between us, okay? Marcus has no idea. This whole thing has gotten so far out of control, but I can't stop now." My blood ran cold. I rounded the corner, and there she was, Olivia, pressed up against Kyle, their bodies inches apart. When she spotted me, her face went white. Kyle stepped back, his hands raised as if I had caught him holding a bomb. And to me, it might as well have been. "You've got to be kidding me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but rage bubbled underneath. Here, of all places, in front of millions of viewers? I couldn't fathom it. Olivia, my wife, the woman I trusted with my life, had fallen into a cliché reality show affair. I stormed back to our cabin, slamming the door behind me, my mind racing with fury. This wasn't just some meaningless flirtation, this was happening on live television. We were being watched 24/7, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the producers caught wind. Hell, they probably already had. That night, Olivia tried to explain it away, but the damage was done. The cameras were still rolling, and I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. But what she said next floored me. "Marcus, I'm sorry. I got caught up in the show, in the attention. It didn't mean anything. Please, don't let this ruin us." "Ruin us? You already ruined us, Olivia," I spat back, my voice shaking. Before either of us could say another word, the cabin door swung open, and in walked Jessica, the show's host, a petite, sharp-eyed woman in her mid-40s with a talent for stirring the pot. "Marcus, Olivia," she said with a tight smile, "we need to talk." Olivia and I stared at her, confused. The producers were hoping this wouldn't happen, but they've decided to take the footage public. "Tomorrow's episode will feature the developments between you and Kyle." She paused dramatically. "The audience will see everything." I felt the air leave the room. Public? This wasn't just a betrayal within the confines of the show, it was about to become a national spectacle. Everyone was going to know. Our friends, our families, hell, even our enemies. Olivia's face crumbled, but mine? I was too angry to feel much at all. Except, maybe, one thing, a fire ignited within me, something primal. I wasn't going to be the victim of some sleazy reality TV scandal. If Olivia wanted to humiliate me on live television, then I'd play the game too, but I wasn't going to just forgive and forget. No, this was going to end on my terms. Little did Olivia know, I had started to plan my revenge. This wasn't just a simple affair. This was betrayal, on the grandest stage. And I would make sure that when this all blew up, she would be the one standing either night. After Jessica's bombshell announcement, sleep became an impossible task. My mind raced, replaying every interaction, every shared moment between Olivia and Kyle. A reality show affair, how utterly predictable. Yet it wasn't the betrayal that gnawed at me the most, it was the humiliation. Being blindsided like some naive idiot in front of millions of viewers. I wasn't going to let that happen. The next morning, tension hung in the air like a noose. Olivia avoided me entirely, her eyes darting between the contestants like a guilty child. Kyle, on the other hand, strutted around the compound with an air of cocky indifference, clearly savoring the spotlight. His confidence was infuriating. The producers were likely thrilled, ratings would skyrocket once the scandal aired. But they weren't the only ones planning a spectacle. I had a gut feeling Jessica's visit wasn't just about informing us of the upcoming episode. There was something off about the way she phrased it, the almost too perfect timing of her arrival. I wasn't the only one who noticed. During lunch, the remaining couples were unusually quiet, most likely sensing the tension between Olivia, Kyle, and me. But it was one of the quieter contestants, Jennifer, a 30-year-old elementary school teacher with an intuition that could rival Sherlock Holmes, who leaned over the table and whispered, "Have you ever wondered if the producers are pulling more strings than we know?" I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth. "What do you mean?" She glanced around cautiously, then lowered her voice further. "I overheard some of the crew talking late last night. This show isn't just about love and relationships, it's designed to tear us apart. They create situations to test our loyalty and forgiveness, but they want drama. They thrive on it." Her words hit me like a freight train. It suddenly clicked. All the weird shifts in behavior, the way certain people were always thrown together, even the late-night random bonfire pairings. Kyle and Olivia hadn't just found each other by chance, they'd been nudged in that direction. Jessica's announcement wasn't just about ratings, it was a calculated move to push us to the edge. "Wait," I said, lowering my voice to match hers, "are you saying the producers set this whole thing up?" Jennifer nodded slowly. "Think about it. Why else would they be so quick to air something so personal? They've probably been watching you both for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment to stir the pot." The realization sent a chill down my spine. They weren't just filming a reality show, they were orchestrating our lives, setting traps to see who would crack under the pressure. But why? Was it just about ratings, or was there something more sinister at play? I didn't have the full answer yet, but it gave me an idea. I wasn't just some pawn in their twisted game. If they wanted to manipulate me, they were going to have to work a lot harder. Later that day, Jessica made her return. She appeared just as polished and predatory as the night before, but this time, she wasn't alone. Beside her stood a man I hadn't seen before, tall, well-dressed, with an air of corporate smugness. He had the unmistakable look of someone in charge. The other couples gathered around, sensing something big was about to happen. Olivia stood awkwardly next to Kyle, her body language screaming guilt and shame. I barely looked in her direction. "Contestants," Jessica began, her voice sharp, "we have a very important update for you." Her companion stepped forward, introducing himself as David McClellan, the executive producer of Lasting Love. He must have been in his mid-40s, the kind of guy who wore his success like a badge of honor. His tailored suit was out of place in the tropical heat, but he didn't seem to care. "Some of you might be wondering why this show has taken the direction it has," David started, his tone patronizing. "You see, Lasting Love was never just about isolation or strengthening bonds. We wanted to dig deeper, to truly understand what makes relationships break and what makes them last." I clenched my jaw. "Here it comes. We introduced a little experiment," he continued, his eyes sweeping over us, landing on Olivia and Kyle for a fraction of a second longer than anyone else. "In order to test your loyalty, we placed certain temptations in your path. The goal wasn't just to see if you would succumb to those temptations, but to see how you would react once the truth came to light. Would you forgive? Would you fight for your relationship? Or would everything crumble?" The air grew heavy with realization. This wasn't just a reality show, this was a psychological test, a carefully crafted experiment designed to push us all to our breaking points. "What the hell is this?" I spat, my anger boiling over. "You're playing with people's lives. Our marriages, our relationships, they aren't just some game for you to toy with." David didn't flinch. He smiled, as though my outburst was exactly what he wanted. "Oh, but it is a game, Marcus. And like any game, there are winners and losers. How you handle this moment will determine which side you fall on." I could feel every eye on me, including Olivia's. She stood frozen, her face a mixture of shock and fear. I could almost hear her thoughts racing. Had she fallen into a trap? Had Kyle? Was this whole thing orchestrated by forces beyond our control? David continued, the footage of Olivia and Kyle will air tomorrow, as scheduled. However, we're giving you, Marcus, a choice. You can either expose Olivia and Kyle on live television, turning this into a scandal that will follow them forever. Or, he paused for effect, savoring every second, you can forgive her. We'll frame the narrative as a story of redemption and love, and you'll both come out of this as a stronger couple in the eyes of the world. The words hung in the air like a noxious cloud. Forgive her? On live television? Play the part of the devoted husband who forgives his wayward wife after a public betrayal? The thought made me sick, but the alternative? Explosive, destructive revenge, seen by millions. Olivia would be vilified, Kyle would be humiliated, and I would walk away the victor, cold, unfeeling, but victorious nonetheless. I looked at Olivia, who stood trembling. Her lips parted as if to say something, but no words came. Kyle, for once, had the decency to look uncomfortable, but it wasn't enough. Not by a long shot. David wasn't done. There's one more thing. He pulled a sleek black envelope from his jacket and handed it to me. Inside are the details of what really happened behind the scenes. We had incentives in place, but I'll leave that for you to decide if you want to reveal. I felt the envelope in my hands, heavy with the weight of manipulation. What kind of incentives? Were Olivia and Kyle pressured into this affair, or had they willingly fallen into the producer's trap? Suddenly, it wasn't just about their betrayal, it was about how deep the producer's hands were in this mess. Olivia's eyes met mine, filled with unshed tears. Marcus, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know they were doing this. I stared at her, trying to decipher if she was lying or if she, too, had been a pawn. But it didn't matter. The choice was mine now. I could expose the entire twisted setup, ruin Olivia and Kyle, and walk away the hero of this farce. Or I could play the long game. A slow, calculated plan began forming in my mind. If David and the producers thought they could control me, they were in for a rude awakening. I wasn't just going to expose the affair, I was going to expose the entire damn show. I clenched the envelope in my fist. You'll get your answer tomorrow, I said, turning on my heel and walking away. As I left the stunned silence behind me, one thing was certain: they weren't just toying with Olivia's life, they were toying with mine, too. And I was about to turn the tables. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was war. And the ruins, not me. The moment I left the courtyard, my mind was ablaze with ideas, each more outrageous than the last. David and his producers thought they had me cornered, but they were playing checkers, and I was about to hit them with some 3D chess. Exposing Olivia's affair in front of millions? Too predictable. If they wanted drama, I would give them a spectacle they couldn't control, a full-blown expose on their entire twisted operation. But it had to be perfect, executed with precision. No room for mistakes. Back in our shared villa, Olivia was sitting on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles were white. She hadn't followed me after the showdown with David and Jessica, but now, her tear-filled eyes were glued to me as I entered the room. I could feel her fear, the kind of dread that comes when your world is about to implode. Marcus, she whispered, barely able to get the words out. Please, we need to talk. I didn't mean for this to happen. I ignored her, not out of cruelty, but because I couldn't let her derail what was forming in my mind. I had bigger plans in motion. If she knew what I was about to do, it could jeopardize everything. My silence only made her more desperate. She stood up, inching toward me, her voice trembling. I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't know they were setting us up. Kyle is nothing to me, Marcus. It was a mistake, a stupid mistake. Mistake? No, it was more than that. But now wasn't the time to argue. I needed her to think I was still processing everything. I needed her to believe I was considering forgiveness, at least, for now. I sat on the bed, staring at the black envelope still clenched in my hand. It wasn't just a physical object anymore, it was a loaded gun, and I was holding the trigger. Inside that envelope were the details of everything: how the producers had engineered the affair, how they pushed Olivia and Kyle together for weeks without any of us realizing. I could feel the weight of it all, but I wouldn't use this weapon recklessly. Not yet. After what felt like an eternity of silence, I finally spoke, but my voice was calm, measured. You didn't know, I repeated, my eyes still fixed on the envelope. But you did it. You slept with him. Olivia winced at the bluntness of my words, tears streaming down her face. I thought I could keep it from you. I didn't want you to find out like this. I could see the guilt consuming her, but I wasn't ready to let her off the hook. You didn't want me to find out, I echoed coldly, but you didn't think twice about going to bed with another man while we were supposed to be fixing our marriage? She broke down, collapsing onto the bed, sobbing into her hands. Normally, I'd feel some sympathy. This was the woman I'd spent nearly a decade with, after all, but all I could think about was how to use this moment to my advantage. Every tear, every plea was another piece I could move on the board. Finally, I let out a long breath and softened my tone just enough. Olivia, I need time to think about everything. They've put us in an impossible situation. We're being watched, judged, manipulated. I'm not saying it excuses what you did, but I don't know what to believe right now. She looked up, hope flickering in her tear-streaked face. You're right, this whole show is sick. They've pushed us into this, made us into entertainment for the world. But maybe we can still fix things. Maybe we can show them that we're stronger than this. I almost laughed. Stronger? She didn't know what was coming. Still, I nodded slowly, giving her just enough hope to keep her from asking too many questions. We'll talk more tomorrow, I said, standing and heading for the door. I just need to clear my head. As I left the villa, I felt her eyes following me, filled with desperation and guilt. Good. Let her stew in it. This was far from over. The following morning, I started putting my plan into action. The producers might have thought they could script the outcome of this circus, but I was going to rewrite the ending, and it was going to be bigger than any of them anticipated. First, I needed allies. Jennifer, the sharp elementary school teacher who had warned me about the show's true nature, was my first target. She had seen the cracks in the producers' manipulations long before anyone else, and if anyone could help me expose the truth, it was her. I found her by the pool, sipping coffee and staring off into the distance, clearly lost in thought. Jennifer, I greeted, sitting beside her. She raised an eyebrow but didn't seem surprised. Let me guess. You're planning to burn this whole place down, aren't you? I chuckled. Something like that. I need your help. Her eyes gleamed with curiosity. What are you thinking? I want to expose the producers, but not just for the affair. I want to take down the entire show, prove that they've been pulling strings from the start. I need footage, conversations, anything that shows how they've been manipulating us. Jennifer leaned back in her chair, considering my words. You're not just looking for revenge on Olivia, are you? This is bigger. I nodded. Much bigger. If we play this right, it'll be the scandal of the year. But I need someone on the inside, someone who can access the cameras, the audio, all the behind-the-scenes footage. She grinned. I think I know just the guy. Jennifer introduced me to Leo, a 32-year-old sound technician who had been working with the show since it started. He was your typical tech geek, quiet, observant, and, most importantly, disillusioned with the producers. According to Jennifer, he'd seen enough shady dealings to make his skin crawl, but he hadn't had the opportunity or courage to blow the whistle. Until now. Leo agreed to meet us in secret, away from the cameras and prying eyes of the production team. We gathered in the far corner of the compound, near the generator shed where the sound equipment was stored. I've been waiting for someone to take them down, Leo said, his voice low. They've been pushing people to the edge for weeks, feeding contestants booze, manipulating footage to create drama, even planting ideas in people's heads about their partners. Can you get us access to the footage of Olivia and Kyle? I asked. Not just the affair, but everything leading up to it. Conversations between the producers, anything that shows they engineered this whole thing. Leo nodded. It'll take some time, but I can pull it. They have audio recordings from the producers' meetings too. If you want proof, that's where you'll find it. I smirked. This was perfect. With the audio recordings and behind-the-scenes footage, I could not only expose Olivia and Kyle, but the entire show's corrupt operations. It would be a bombshell that no one could contain. But there's more, Leo continued. There's something bigger happening here. I furrowed my brow. What do you mean? Leo hesitated, glancing around as if someone might be listening. The producers, they are not just here for ratings. There's talk that this whole setup, this experiment, is part of a larger project. Something psychological. They are working with people, scientists, maybe, to see how far they can push us before we break. Jennifer gasped. You're kidding. Leo shook his head. I wish I was. They want to see how betrayal, isolation, and manipulation affect people's minds. It's not just a reality show, it's an experiment. And we're the lab rats. This revelation sent chills down my spine. The affair, the constant surveillance, the mind games, it all made sense now. This wasn't just about entertainment. We were part of something far more twisted. I looked at Jennifer and Leo, both of them waiting for my response. Then we expose all of it, I said firmly. Not just Olivia and Kyle's affair. We take down the entire operation, from the producers to whatever psychological experiment they are running. Jennifer nodded in agreement. I'm in. Leo cracked a small smile. Let's blow this thing wide open. The plan was in motion. Over the next few days, Leo worked quietly behind the scenes, pulling audio files and footage while Jennifer and I laid the groundwork for the big reveal. The producers had no idea what was coming. In the meantime, I played my part, acting like a husband on the verge of forgiveness. I stayed close to Olivia, giving her just enough hope to keep her from panicking, but not enough to make her feel secure. Kyle, oblivious as ever, strutted around like the king of the compound, completely unaware of the storm brewing around him. The producers pushed the scandal hard, dropping hints to the other couples and ramping up the tension for the upcoming decision day. The viewers would expect drama, a resolution, either forgiveness or an explosion of rage. But I was about to deliver something much bigger. The tension in the air was palpable, the cameras buzzing around me as I stood at the center of the stage. Olivia, still blissfully unaware of my plan, stood beside me, her fingers nervously twisting her hair. I could see the other contestants glancing at each other, curiosity and confusion written all over their faces. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything I was about to unleash. Tonight isn't just about forgiveness or closure, I continued, my voice echoing in the silence. It's about truth. The truth about what's really been happening in this house. Gasps rippled through the group. I could see David, the producer, shifting uncomfortably in the shadows, his face pale as he sensed what was coming. While you all have been led to believe this is a simple reality show about love and betrayal, I have something to show you, something that reveals the sick game being played at our expense. I glanced toward Leo, who stood off to the side, a smug smile on his face as he prepared to play the first video. The lights dimmed slightly, and a screen descended from the ceiling. The contestants looked around in confusion as the first clip rolled. It was footage of a meeting between David and the producers, scenes I had never thought I would see, but thanks to Leo's diligence, I had access to every damning word. Look at how they are manipulating us, I said, pointing at the screen. They knew exactly what they were doing when they set Olivia and Kyle up. This whole affair was orchestrated from the start. They pushed us into a psychological experiment, trying to see how far they could go before someone broke. The video showed the producers laughing, discussing how they could amplify tensions between couples, encourage infidelity, and then use it for ratings. As the footage rolled on, I felt my heart racing, a sense of exhilaration rushing through me. The other contestants were now fixated on the screen, shock etched into their expressions. Watch closely, I said, my voice firm as I pointed to the screen again. They've been feeding Olivia lines, manipulating her feelings. This isn't just an affair, it's a betrayal on every level, orchestrated by the very people who claim to be our allies. David stormed toward me, his face contorted with rage. You have no idea what you're talking about. This is a show, we create entertainment. You're ruining everything. But I was just getting started. Am I ruining it? Or am I simply revealing the truth you've tried so hard to hide? The viewers deserve to see this, and you're going to let me finish. I gestured to the screen again, and the next clip began playing, this one showing David whispering to Kyle, encouraging him to pursue Olivia further. I could hear the murmurings of disbelief among the contestants, and the realization of betrayal hit them like a wave. Everything you thought you knew about this show is a lie, I declared, my voice rising above the chaos. This is not about love, this is about ratings, manipulation, and psychological games. As I continued to play the clips, I watched as Olivia's face drained of color. Her eyes widened in horror, the truth settling in that she was just a pawn in a much larger game. It was a sweet satisfaction to see the realization dawning on her, she had been played just as much as I had. I was delivering the revenge I had planned for weeks, and the moment felt intoxicating. You think you can destroy us and walk away, she finally spoke up, her voice shaking. I didn't know. I thought it was real. But I held up a hand to silence her, my heart racing with adrenaline. You did this to yourself, Olivia. I may have my faults, but I never wanted to hurt you. You willingly jumped into this mess. You thought you could betray me and get away with it. The camera zoomed in on her face, capturing every tear that fell from her eyes. There was no hiding from the truth now. The producers had set this all in motion, and it was unraveling before our eyes. Just when I thought I had them all reeling, I pressed play on the next video. This time, it showed Olivia and Kyle laughing, planning their rendezvous in hushed tones, completely oblivious to the cameras capturing every moment. The room erupted in a collective gasp. The camera panned to Kyle, his swagger vanishing in an instant. What the hell, Olivia, he shouted, his voice laced with disbelief. You never told me they were recording. The the tension skyrocketed, and it felt as if the walls were closing in on all of us. You see, I continued, my tone now icy. None of this was real. None of the love, none of the drama, it was all fabricated. And now, we have the power to take back control. Before I could even finish, David lunged forward, attempting to grab the remote from Leo's hands. You can't do this. You'll ruin everything. But Leo was quick, dodging David's grasp and hitting pause. You already ruined it. You've turned people's lives into your playground. This ends now. End? David's voice dripped with sarcasm. This is television. Drama is what we live for. It's what makes us money. You don't get it. I shot back, feeling the fury bubbling inside me. You've taken advantage of people at their most vulnerable, and I'm not going to let you get away with it any longer. The uproar that followed was deafening. Contestants yelled, some rushed toward David, their anger boiling over. The chaos in the room was everything I had hoped for. Cameras clicked and flashed, capturing every moment of the escalating drama. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Marcus, what are you doing? Olivia shrieked, the fear in her voice cutting through the chaos. This isn't how it's supposed to end, isn't it? I shot back, turning to her. You thought you could betray me and waltz back into my life as if nothing happened. You thought I would forgive you after this? She stepped back, her expression torn between guilt and anger. I was trying to survive in here. You have no idea how lonely it is. But the truth was clearer than ever. This wasn't about her loneliness. This was about the lies and deception that had spiraled out of control. I had the upper hand now, and I was ready to take it. I want this show to be exposed for what it really is, I declared, taking a step forward, my eyes locked on David. I want the world to see how you've manipulated us all. This is bigger than you, bigger than me. This is about accountability. David's face twisted in anger as he realized the magnitude of my intentions. You'll never get away with this. You'll ruin your own life too. But I wasn't afraid of the fallout. I had already lost everything I cared about. It was time to burn this show to the ground. With one final press of the button, I unleashed the last piece of footage, the hidden conversations where the producers discussed how to create chaos among contestants, how they pushed relationships to the brink for a ratings spike. The room fell silent, the weight of the revelation sinking in as everyone processed the reality that had been unfolding before them. Welcome to the real show, I said, standing tall, a sense of triumph swelling inside me. Now it's time to reveal everything. The chaos continued to unfold as Olivia, David, and Kyle all tried to salvage what was left of their reputations. But I could see the tide turning. The other contestants began to rally behind me, anger swelling against the producers who had manipulated us all. I was ready to finish what I had started. I was ready to take back control and make sure everyone knew the truth. The entire house was engulfed in outrage, and it felt exhilarating. As cameras rolled and emotions soared, I knew that the real battle was just beginning. The world was about to see just how twisted this game had become, and I was going to ensure the producers paid for their manipulations. As the night unfolded, alliances shifted, and the atmosphere transformed from betrayal to empowerment. The contestants who once stood on the sidelines began to unite, rallying around the idea of truth and justice. I had ignited a fire within them, and now it was our time to fight back. But even as I basked in this newfound power, I knew I had to keep my wits about me. This fight was far from over, and the producers would not go down without a fight. We had revealed their secrets, but they still had the audience's gaze fixed upon them. The final showdown was on the horizon, and I needed to be prepared for whatever they threw my way. It was a new dawn for us all, a chance to reclaim our lives from the shadows of deception. We weren't just players in their twisted game anymore, we were the architects of our own fate. And with that realization, I felt a rush of adrenaline surge through me. We would rise from the ashes together, and I was ready to see this battle through to the end. The morning after the chaos erupted, the world outside the show was buzzing with headlines that screamed betrayal, deception, and scandal. Every major news outlet had picked up the story of what had unfolded on live TV. Social media was on fire, with hashtags like #RealityShowRevolt, #BetrayalExposed, and #producer manipulation trending worldwide. My face, Olivia's face, Kyle's smug grin, and David's panicked expression were plastered on every screen, every article. It was as if the entire world was watching our personal drama unfold in real time. But this wasn't over. We had just started the war, and now it was time to deal with the fallout. The producers tried to do damage control immediately. David appeared on the morning shows, defending the program and downplaying the explosive footage I'd released the night before. He painted us as unstable contestants, claiming we had exaggerated the drama for attention. But the public wasn't buying it. The The truth was out there now, and it had hit harder than even I expected. As for me, I stayed silent for a few days, watching the circus from the shadows. I knew my next move had to be strategic. Olivia had reached out to me several times since the night I exposed the affair and the producer's manipulations. Every text message was some variation of "we need to talk" or "please let me explain." I ignored them all. What was there left to say? I had ripped the mask off this entire operation, and I wasn't going to stop until I had brought the entire system down. A week later, the network issued a statement, trying to frame the entire situation as a creative misstep. They claimed the betrayal test was meant to push the boundaries of reality TV but admitted that certain elements had gone too far. They made a half-hearted apology, promising more transparency in future seasons. I wasn't satisfied with that. I contacted Leo and we started working on a lawsuit, not just against the producers of the show, but against the network itself. We gathered more contestants who had experienced similar manipulation tactics, others who felt used, abused, and cast aside for the sake of ratings. The more I dug into the behind the scenes, the more dirt I found. Contestants had been mentally and emotionally broken down on purpose, and worse, some had been offered bribes to keep quiet. As the lawsuit gained traction, we went public with everything. Interviews on major platforms, exposes on the darker side of reality TV, and even a tell-all book in the works. The show that had once been a guilty pleasure for millions was now under fire for being nothing more than a grotesque psychological experiment. The network was scrambling, but I was ready to burn it all down. Meanwhile, Olivia had disappeared from the public eye. She hadn't given any interviews, and rumors swirled that she was in hiding, avoiding the firestorm of public shame that had been unleashed. Kyle, on the other hand, was leaning into the notoriety. He showed up on talk shows, milking his 15 minutes of fame, claiming that Olivia had seduced him and that he was the real victim in all of this. I found it disgusting, but predictable. Then, one day, I got a call from Olivia. I hesitated before answering, but something in me wanted to hear her voice, if only to finally close this chapter for good. "Marcus?" Her voice was shaky, fragile. "Can we please meet? Just once. I need to explain everything." I could hear the desperation in her voice, and part of me wanted to slam the phone down, but another part of me was curious. What could she possibly say that would make any of this right? We agreed to meet at a small cafe downtown, away from the cameras and the media frenzy. When I walked in, I barely recognized her. Olivia looked worn down, her once vibrant energy drained, her eyes hollow with regret. "Thank you for coming," she whispered, barely able to meet my gaze. I sat down across from her, arms crossed, not offering any pleasantries. "Say what you need to say." She took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she clutched her coffee cup. "I made so many mistakes, Marcus. And I know that nothing I say can undo the damage I've done, but I need you to understand. I wasn't myself in that house." I scoffed. "You weren't yourself? That's your excuse?" Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of pity. But then I remembered everything she had done, how she had lied, cheated, and thrown away everything we had for a cheap thrill. "The producers, they pushed us, manipulated us," she continued, her voice cracking. "I know it sounds like I'm blaming them, but it's the truth. They knew exactly how to get inside my head. They wanted me to betray you, to create drama. I wasn't strong enough to fight it." I stared at her, my heart cold. "You could have said no." She sobbed quietly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I know. I was weak. I didn't think about the consequences, about how it would destroy you, destroy us." I sat in silence for a moment, letting her words hang in the air. "Why are you telling me this now? Why not just stay hidden, let the storm pass?" She swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "Because I need you to forgive me. I can't live with myself, knowing how much I've hurt you." The irony of her request stung. Forgiveness? After everything? It felt like a cruel joke. "I've already moved on, Olivia," I said quietly, my words like a dagger. "This isn't about forgiveness anymore. This is about truth, and the truth is, you made your choice. You chose Kyle, you chose betrayal, and you chose fame over us." Her face crumbled, and I stood up, tossing a few bills on the table. "Goodbye, Olivia," I said, walking away from her for the last time. The lawsuit went to trial months later. It was a media circus, with cameras following every move, every testimony. The producers and network executives tried to distance themselves from the scandal, claiming ignorance about the mental and emotional harm they had caused. But the evidence was overwhelming. Clip after clip of manipulated footage, testimonies from contestants who had been driven to the brink, all came to light. In the end, we won. The show was permanently cancelled, the producers fired, and the network was forced to pay millions in damages. More importantly, the industry was shaken. Reality TV would never be the same again. I walked away from it all with a sense of closure. I hadn't just fought for myself, I had fought for everyone who had been wronged by the system. As for Olivia, I heard she left the country, trying to escape the shame and rebuild her life somewhere far away from the public eye. Kyle faded into obscurity after his brief brush with fame. The world moved on, but I didn't care. I had already moved on from them long ago. In the end, I didn't just expose the truth. I became something more, a man who had taken control of his own story, and for the first time in a long time, I was free.